From the City of Angels, you are listening to the James Salazar Media Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk about what you can and can't control. So let me strike the music, and I'll meet you on the other side.
Engage. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Say hello to my little friend.
No, I am your father.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
And welcome to the James Salazar Media Podcast, where you get your weekly dose of pop culture, politics, and futurism. I am the formerly mentioned, your host, James Salazar, a.k.a. The Media. What a world we live in. What a world we live in, where one president, now gone, Donald Trump, was excoriated. Is that a word? Excoriated? Feels like it's a word. For how he handled the border. That he put kids in cages and he tore them away from their parents. Just for the new president who ran on denigrating the last president on such activities, doubles down on the activities, throws them in storage containers, pretty much implies that there is a open border. Now you got new caravans coming through Mexico, trying to get in to the country. And every one of them knows that their child's going to be taken away from them for about a couple of weeks until they can confirm that this is their child, that a narco or a coyote didn't steal this child, and tell them, you better say I'm your parent or I'll go back and murder your real ones. And when they get away with it, they sell them into slavery for either sex or labor. This is the only concentration camps that people willingly walk into, except for the children, right? And this is why we separate them, to make sure they are okay. Joe Biden is doing the exact same thing, but he's not being excoriated by the press. He is given a pass because he's not Donald Trump. So the hypocrisy is so high right now. And all my colleagues on Facebook and the Twitter and Instagram who didn't like Donald Trump are suddenly very quiet about it. Interesting. The difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden: Donald Trump did not advertise that we have an open border. Joe Biden did. And we all understand why they do that, right? Because it takes about 10 years for a Latino to become Republican once they're citizens. Until then, they're undocumented Democrats. Until they realize that liberals want to destroy the family structure, rewrite science, biological science, that their money that goes to government, they never really see it unless it's state government. So they end up being more conservative with tax laws. They begin to understand that every time their boss is taxed at a higher rate because of the state or the nation, they find out that they go to different states when they're taxed high at that state. And some even go to different nations who have lower taxes. You can't make people stay. China can't make its people stay with its draconian taxes and its government taking over businesses. They can't make the people stay. They end up leaving. And Latinos usually learn this. They're like, oh, I guess that job is going. I know so many people in my family. I know so many friends whose businesses have left to Texas and Florida. People say it's a hoax. It's not a hoax. The people who say that are idiots. And I suggest they open up a business, hire about a couple of people, and then take the financial hit on your side and not fire people and not close down your business. Just let it drain your income, and then you'll know what it's like to own a business. So I will not take opinions from the peanut gallery who've never ran a business. So the border's not very good right now. Look, illegal immigration undermines legal immigration. It's just a fact. Just common sense. If you want a process that's legal, but you say it's okay for people not to follow that process, you can come in anyways, you undermine it. If I told people to stand in line to pay for a ticket, and on the other side, a guy says, you can come in, you know how many people are going to pay for the ticket? Nobody. And in fact, people are going to want their money back. America needs immigrants. We thrive off of immigrants. This is a fact. But legal immigration is the best way to go. Instead of having a secret economy where people are treated bad, that Democrats and Republicans seem fine with, both of those undermine lawful legal immigration. And right now, we just don't have the capacity to employ these people. We don't. We don't have the capacity to employ our own people, to bring in hundreds of thousands of people that we cannot employ in our economy, that the only recourse if they want to survive in America is to jump on our entitlements. Just seems poorly thought out. And there'll be consequences for this all around. Those poor kids are not going to go in the rich communities. They're going to go into the poor communities like East LA, El Monte, California, La Puente, Watts, Compton. That's where those kids are going to go, and they're going to flood those systems if schools ever open up. And also, they're not even testing for COVID. So, unless they're giving them vaccines, and that's a whole other problem, that people who are not citizens here are getting vaccines before Americans do. I'm all for giving other nations, poor nations, the vaccine, but not at the expense of our own people. Let's get our own people to work. Let's get our own people fed. Let's get our own people housed before we start helping people from other nations. You know, when you go into a plane and they're going to tell you about all the emergency things that you need to do, the number one thing they tell you when the oxygen masks come out is don't try to put it on your kid first, because you're going to faint and both of you are going to be screwed. First put on your mask and then put on the other person's mask. First fix your house, then you can bring people in. So what Joe Biden is doing right now, the president, my president, is very unthoughtful, reckless, and a appeal to his base that are so Trump deranged that he's making bad decisions just to make them happy. So I don't know what this is about, but it's not good. And at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of violence at the border. If these people can't come in because we can't handle the capacity, they will logjam, and then there will be fighting. There will be killing. And it's all going to rest on the president's doorstep. Very bad 3 months, according to immigration. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. Today I want to talk about what we can and can't change. This is a series I'm doing. We did one last week last month. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about the last word. That's right, I said it, the last word. Now, most people think the last word is someone who's unwilling to drop out of the argument. They got to have the last word. They got to have the last say. They can't leave you on top. They got to keep on saying something. We all have this problem. If there's a rebuttal, we'll give it. But in life, circumstances, negative comments, people's negative beliefs, or your own self-limiting beliefs, you have the last word. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks or anybody says. They can give their opinion, but you have the last say. Sometimes in life, it doesn't go your way. You can either accept that and give up. It doesn't have to be the last word on your journey, on your story. What someone said to you, what could and couldn't be possible for you, that's just their opinion. But you ultimately have the last say. But most people, they're not willing to do the hard work to have the last say. They're not willing to be disciplined for that comment that person said to be the last word. I don't care what your mama or dad has done to you. They don't have the last word on what happens in your life. I don't care how many jobs you lost. That doesn't have to be the last word in your life. You have the last say in everything. The only last say you don't have is when God whispers in your ear to come home. Until then, you have the last say of what happens in your life. You determine whether you give up. Will you let that circumstance define you? It's just a last word said by those circumstances that you have met many times, that you've experienced through your life, that you haven't let it be the last word in your story. And I'm encouraging you today that the things that you want to do, that you have given up, the negative comments that people have told you, they don't have the last say in your life. You do. It doesn't matter what they say or what they think. You have the last say. It doesn't matter what the fuck they say. As long as you have breath in your lungs, they don't have the last word. You do. Now, there's definitely going to be circumstances in your life that you can't control. There's going to be failures that were inevitable. But whether you're going to make those events define you, you have the last say on that. You can make it a learning experience, or you can let it destroy you. You can give up, or you can get going. But let's be clear that many people will have the last word. But in your life, you have the last say. That should be on a t-shirt. I might put that on. Colonel Sanders was like going to kill himself at the age of like 80 because of all the failures he's had in his life. That was his darkest moment, but he didn't let that be the last word in his life. He created Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC, and became a multi-millionaire before he died. There are stories of Jewish comedians who were in concentration camps that didn't let the Nazis control their humor. They knew in the midst of such a dire circumstance that they still had a choice. They had a choice on how they were going to die. And they were going to die laughing. Those Nazis may have had the last word on when they were going to die. But they had the last laugh. Some of the greatest stories, some of the greatest accomplishments were people who didn't take the last word from their last failure. That pushed on, stood up. They realized that didn't have to define them, but they were going to have the last word on whether they were going to quit or not. You know, I say this often when I speak, that you better figure out what you want to do and who you're going to be, because there's plenty of people who will try to figure it out for you. People love to have the last say about you. People love to give their opinion on what you can and cannot do. People, if you give them a chance, will throw you in a pit of despair with their words. But they don't have the last say, and they never did. You have the last say. That you can control. And when people speak that way to you, it's them not understanding or them trying to attempt to control you. People feel wrongly that your success takes away from theirs. That there is a limited amount of success to go out. And if too many people have it, there'll be none left for you. There is no stupider idea ever created. You don't have to tear someone else down to make yourself feel better. You can feel better because you can. Because you have the last word on what makes you feel better. You don't have to have it be someone else's downfall. So I encourage you today, my friends. This is not going to be a very long podcast, because I want to impress upon you that you might have people who say you can't do this and you can't do that. That this is impossible. I don't think you're going to do it. That you might have had failures in your life that just have overwhelmed you and put you in a position or in a mindset of fear that you don't want to fear again, so you'd rather not try. But your heart is dying because you want to do it. And your heart deep inside hasn't given up. I will say those circumstances, those people, and I'll repeat it again, do not have the last say. They don't have the last word. You do. You have the last say. You have the last word on what you're going to do. And last but not least, sometimes you have to say to your old self, and what the last word you said on that subject to yourself, well, your new self has the last say, not your old self. Not what you told yourself back then. Not what you believed about yourself back then. Tell your old self to fuck off. This is what's happening now. This is the last word on what happened and what I'm going to do. So when someone comes up to you and tries to tear you down and tries to tell you what you can and cannot do, when life circumstances is coming down on you in such a way that you want to give up and it wants to be the last word in your life, you tell it to go fuck off and tell those people to mind their own business. Thank you for your opinion, but I have the last say on what I do. And they're going to try to shame you and how much they know more than you. But this is your life. There's consequences to everything. As long as you know the score, you got the last word. So, my friends, thank you for listening today. I'd like to tell you about a new program I'm coming out with called the Identity Redesign Matrix. It is a life coaching program, was a 13-module teaching program about the mindsets and modalities of what it means to be successful in the United States of America. It consists of over 34 years of knowledge at the age of 12 on stage, singing in my first rock band with my friends, one of the youngest youth pastors in LA County, an opera singer with over 30 roles under his belt, and life coaching for the last 20 years, people in government, people in entertainment, people in sports and entrepreneurs, all nice and packaged into a video course with all my signature ideas that I think will help you follow through on your dream. That's coming out in about a month and a half. I also wrote a book during the pandemic. It's called How to Be Great at Everything You Can Do. This is something me and my friends, particular friend, talked about for many times. What it takes and what it means to be great at doing something. I'm also going to come out with a little lead magnet for you to have. Coming soon. A lot of good things on the horizon. So, my friends, please subscribe to the podcast. Please leave a review. You can follow me on all the social media platforms. Just type in James Salazar Media. I should come up in Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and LinkedIn, I think, also. So just type in James Salazar Media. I should come up. If you want to talk to me, go to jamessalazarmedia@gmail.com. Don't forget to check out my new website, jamessalazarmedia.com. Pretty easy. It's all consistent. I'm on brand. So, my friends, when the storm of life come against you and you find yourself on your knees, stand tall and say what my sensei Jack Byrne always says, give me your best shot. Strike the music.